It's Monday. Let's do a mock draft. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to Talking Jets with Tigo. My name is Tigo, and today I want to do a mock draft for the New York Jets, especially because since the last time we did a mock draft, so many things have changed. We've built up the Great Wall in front of Aaron Rodgers. We've went out and done a lot of things, like including but not limited to signing a bunch of players on the interior of the defensive line and just rounding out the team. Now, here is the thing. When I am recording this video, it is before the Jadeveon Clowney and the Mike Williams meeting, so I have no idea how those things went. I have no idea if they're coming to the team. But I am a big fan of the New York Jets, specifically bringing in those players. So I am going to go and operate under the assumption that Jadeveon Clowney signed with the New York Jets and Mike Williams signed with the New York Jets for this exercise. But let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right in to the mock drafts. We're going to be using the PFF mock draft simulator to do all of this, and it's just going to be a great place. I like this mock draft simulator, and they've done a lot of things to try to make it a little bit more realistic. So let's go to 10, and 10 is very interesting because we got a couple of players that I'm interested in. Brock Bowers is here. Talise Fuaga, Troy Fautanu are still here. Obviously, Jackson Powers-Johnson, and even Brian Thomas Jr., all guys that I'm super interested in at this position. But one of the things that did happen is that J.J. McCarthy hasn't gone yet. And so I'm going to do everything I can to sell this pick. And I'm going to see what I can get from Las Vegas. Will they give us 44 just straight up for the pick? No, they won't. But if I throw in 135, let's offer this trade and see if they'll accept. And they did. So we gave up a fourth-round pick to get our second-round pick and to drop 4 spots. I think that this is more than good enough value when it comes to this, especially because, you know, we're in a really, really good position to still address the team. None of the players that they came up to get Talise Fuaga. That's cool. Like, I'm cool with losing out on Talise Fuaga at this point to get a second-round pick, which I think is just so important. Days 1 and 2 in this draft are so important, so getting that value is awesome. And I'm cool with losing a fourth-round pick if that means we get a second-round pick. So I'm really, really happy with that. The Steelers want to come up, and so do the Bucks. But I think I'm going to stick and pick here. And one of the things that I just, when I look at this team, when I look at the value of this team and what we need to be doing, I think we need to be addressing pass catchers. Right now, we literally only have Garrett Wilson. And even with the signing of Mike Williams, I don't feel like that's enough. Mike Williams is 1 year removed from an ACL and an MCL surgery. I don't know if we're going to be in on any other wide receivers. And a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. is going to be incredibly young and incredibly dynamic for the New York Jets. And I think this has him a little bit rated a little bit too low in my personal opinion. I have him with a top 15 grade, and I'm going to hop on this. This is one of the picks that I would have seriously considered at 10, and to get him here at 13 makes a ton of sense. We need to start getting pass catchers. A quarterback's best friend is pass catchers, and that's exactly what we're going to do here. Really sucks. Kingsley Suamataia and Zach Frazier both going the picks ahead of us, which would have been great assets to allocate. And while I do love me some Brandon Fisk, and while I do also love me some Chris Jenkins, we did do a really good job at addressing the offensive line in free agency. I'm sorry, not the offensive, but the defensive line in free agency. And going with a guy like that in the second round is just not something that I would feel super comfortable doing. And you know what? There are a couple of names here in this offensive tackle room that I would still feel really comfortable and waiting until the third round to go and get. So I'm not going to take an offensive tackle here at this point, and I'm going to start looking elsewhere and starting to see, is there anybody else whose name screams out at me, this is a guy I need to go get. And you know what? There is Christian Haynes, the offensive guard out of Connecticut. We have to remember the short-term plans on the offensive line, specifically on the interior. And I'll be honest here, one of the things that I'm not a fan of that ended up happening is the fact that the New York Jets ended the whole situation with Elijah Vera Tucker at guard. And I get it. A lot of people are going to be a fan of that and all of that. But when it comes to his injury, specifically with the Achilles, I wanted to keep him off of that leg so that we can see him for a full season. So I am worried about maybe re-aggravating the ankle. And so I am going to spend a little bit more capital as Elijah Vera Tucker insurance, because right now we do not have someone on the roster that I feel 100% confident in playing in place of Aaron Rodgers, of Elijah Vera Tucker in case of an injury or re-aggravating an injury, where a guy like, Haynes is going to give us a really, really high-level backup and can be the player that's going to eventually replace John Simpson when he leaves, and hopefully when Elijah Vera Tucker moves over to left guard, his home, and then you can put Haynes at right guard, and you can have just this really good young offensive interior of the offensive line. And then I'm also going to, again, I liked a lot of the guys in this offensive tackle class, and I was able to walk away with one of the guys that I'm a big fan of in Patrick Paul. I saw the thing. I saw how it worked. And now you're looking at getting a guy like Patrick Paul to come in and to be the heir apparent to both or Morgan Moses and Tyron Smith. I have no idea where Carter Warren is going to end up or where Patrick Paul is going to end up in regards to the left side or the right side. But a guy like Patrick Paul sitting behind Morgan Moses and sitting behind Tyron Smith, as well as Carter Warren and even Max Mitchell, gives us the future of the offensive line for the New York Jets, specifically at tackles. You could very easily convince me to say Tyron Smith and Morgan Moses all of this year, and then next year you throw in a combination of Patrick Paul, Carter Warren, and or Max Mitchell as your guys that you go into camp. These are the guys that are going to compete for those starting jobs, plus maybe another young guy. So I'm going to take Patrick Paul here in the third round, not going to risk it. We go into the fourth round, and you know what? The value is just too good in my eyes, and we're going to get another wide receiver here in Javon Baker, the wide receiver out of UCF. I know this is going to seem like favoritism, and to be fair, it is a little bit, but I will say this. One of the players that I was looking at for the New York Jets at this pick was Jacob Cowing. We were at his pro day and doing the workouts for the pass catchers to get an eye on Jacob Cowing. He went 2 picks before the Jets, but Javon Baker was at the Senior Bowl on the staff that Jeff Ulbrich was a part of and was able to, set an impression. And I really, really like what Javon Baker did at the Senior Bowl. And so I'm going to go there. And while I would love to get into the defensive side of the ball, again, you have to go with value. And a player like Eric All, the tight end out of Iowa, here in the 6th round, the value is just honestly too good for me to pass up on. The New York Jets do need to bring in some competition for the tight end room. I don't want to hand the job to anybody in that room, period. I want them to earn that job, and this is a great way to do that, is to bring in competition. We have Kenny Aboa and Zach Kuntz signed on the roster. We know that Tyler Conklin and Jeremy Ruckert are going to be tight end 1 and tight end 2, but I'm going to bring in as much young talent to compete for that tight end 3 spot, and I even anticipate a tight end 4, because I don't expect us to carry Nick Bawden this year. He just didn't live up to the expectation and the standard set, not the previous year, but the year before that when he was on the New York Jets before the season-ending injury that he had. But with the last 2 picks in the draft, I am going to have to go on the defensive side of the ball. We need to get someone in that safety room, in my opinion, and Ketan Oladapo is a great way to do that. When you're talking about a guy who just graded out as one of the most insane athletes for the New York Jets, or not for the New York Jets, just for the draft in general, Ketan is exactly that. I think he ended with like a 9.98 RAS score. We know how much Joe Douglas loves his athletic guys, and you're just going to bank on athleticism with a guy like Ketan Oladapo. Then I'm going to go to the interior of the defensive line, get a guy that we got hands-on up close and personal in Gabe Hall, the defensive interior out of Baylor. Big, just huge human right in there at the Senior Bowl. All of the guys on the interior of the defensive line are not long-term solutions outside of Quinnen Williams. And so I want to bring in some young athletic talent to come onto the team and to do that. And so let's look at the grades that PFF gave us for all of our picks, and let's look at all of that. And so they gave us a B for the overall grade, and there are all the grades for everything. A C+ for the Brian Thomas Jr. Pick, an F for the Christian Haynes pick, a B- for the Patrick Paul, an A+ for the Javon Baker, an A- for Erick All, a B+ for Ketan Oladapo and Gabe Hall, giving us an overall B grade. Now, while I get why they're giving us an F grade for Christian Haynes, because they don't see the New York Jets having a need at interior offensive linemen, especially because they don't see a need for interior offensive linemen ahead of tackle, which is a sentiment that I understand, but I don't necessarily agree with. I do think that the Christian Haynes pick is an excellent one. The likelihood of Elijah Vera Tucker getting hurt now that he is going to be playing right guard is much, much higher than that if he was going to be playing tackle. So I'd rather have insurance for that. And I was still able to get a guy that I have a 2nd-round grade on in Patrick Paul in the 3rd, and a guy that I have a 3rd-round grade on in the 4th in Javon Baker. Love this draft. If the New York Jets walked away with this as their draft on draft day, the draft days, I would be ecstatic. So let me know in the comment section below, what do you guys think? Do you like this? Do you not like it? Let me know. And last but not least, go Jets.